Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Paranormal Rangers. And as you can see on my screen, audience, we have Art Hardy and Skywatcher Bill. Thanks, you guys, for coming on. Where are the other two? Well, they're having an assignment tonight. They're speaking at an engagement that they had previously scheduled. So it's wonderful to have Art back. He's one of our true blues here on the show, and as well as Bill. So how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great.
That's great. We've been talking lately about what's going on in our world and in our country. And I know, Art, you've been dealing with some things there on the reservation. Would you like to give us a little bit of an update? Not to get too political, but just kind of what you've been dealing with. Is he here with us?
I think he may be having connectivity issues. There he is.
There he is.
I'm back.
You might want to repeat what you asked him, Michelle.
I said, Art, welcome to our show. And I know there's a lot been going on the reservation. So would you give us a little bit of update without getting too political?
Yeah. I mean, right now it's national news, I think. I've seen a lot of different news stations doing small reports on what's happening here on Navajo land. And it's basically mirroring what's happening on a national level, where we have a legislative branch that's not getting along with an executive branch. And I think that's how it goes everywhere. And obviously the point of all that is money, what makes the world go around. So I think that in terms of what is actually happening is someone has an idea about what is good for this nation versus someone else's idea of what's good. And we're just stuck in the middle.
And yet we're the ones who vote them in, and, knowing not every intricate thing that's going on behind the scenes, but we do, right, as citizens of the United States, we do vote these individuals in, and now we're dealing with things that we never thought we would. What about you, Bill? What are your thoughts on that? And before we move into our subject matter.
As I was mentioning before we started, I actually wrote a letter to the White House Correspondence Office to the president, directed to the president, only to get an email saying, unfortunately, we appreciate your message to the president, but we can't pass it along because we're furloughed.
Oh, no.
Man. Oh, really? So, but you know what? It's also important, and a lot of people talk, but see, like what Art's doing on the res, what you're doing, Michelle, not just on the show, but behind the scenes. It's important for people to be proactive, take action. Just don't sit back, take action, be productive, try, make your voice heard, which is what I was trying to do. And, I did contact my senator and my House rep and et cetera. So it's important for people to be proactive and voice your opinion, really. Regardless of party, it's important for people to voice their opinion.
Right.
Yeah, right. Recently, it became a political matter here. I was a mile away from Charlie Kirk, and not to get too much into that. When we got a lockdown for a couple of hours, they were trying to find the assassin, or what we call it, the person who shot the assassin's victim. And it was really, it was an eye opener, because it shows you how safe is it really to live in our communities when this is a family community. And so I think what's been missing, we're going to go into that subject right now, of spirituality and the mainstream. And Art and I have been talking a lot about that a little bit, because we feel like everybody's starting to open their consciousness towards the spirituality in their own lives, and it's gone mainstream, and more people are becoming more aware of their own spirituality.
Before you guys go on with that, I just want to add something to what you're saying. How can anyone of faith who is spiritual, how could you take even someone's life, or I mean, to me, it's just evil incarnate. I mean, if you are a faith, a faith person, a spiritual person, I can't even imagine doing something like that. I'm looking at it from a spiritual perspective. So, I mean, does a person have mental problems? Have they been brainwashed, manipulated, whatever it is? But to me, from a spiritual point of view, that's evil. I'm just saying, that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that sometimes people get radicalized in their views, and there was this political play between the conservatives, and the lefties, and this was not a political motivated move. It was just hatred, outward hatred for somebody who was trying to do good. And I think sometimes we misalign ourselves between what's right and what's wrong. And I think in this case, it was a lot of wrong.
Oh, for sure. Taking some, oh my God. Art.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's it's unfortunate. That's where we're at, in our own country, and as well as what's going on my reservation. And then this is the worst I've ever seen it. And I've been around about 50 years, so I've seen a little bit of stuff. I think that in terms of spirituality and people that are out there dealing with this, it does create stress. People have lost their jobs. I mean, you're dealing with economic crisis in a very personal level, their personal households. And not only that, but when you go through that kind of stress, who do you turn to? Where do you go? Where do you find answers when the stuff hits the fan? And I think a lot of people nowadays are starting to realize that spirituality is playing a key role in keeping them together, keeping their minds together, as well as, we talk about body, spirit, and mind, and those three things they're key. They're key to a human being's success in this life, through his life, and success through their experiences. So the balance that we have to go through on a daily basis to live what we can call a good life requires those three items there to be in sync and at a consistent level, consistent rate. And this is the only way you will function in this world, this reality, in a way that is going to be productive. In what we might call, spiritual productivity, or and go beyond the normal means of everyday, whatever you do in your daily life, from going to your job to going home, making dinner, going to bed, and just kind of repeating that same. Some people might find peace in that, but I think there's a lot of that. You can find peace in other things now, and spirituality is one of those things. And I don't want to get too deep on it, but I will tell you that as an older person, maybe even as an elder person, a lot of them are looking for that peace because they're on their way out, age-wise, right. And physically. So a lot of things that were once important to the ego are no longer in existence for them. So they don't need to brush their hair, they don't need to go out of their way to look 100%. They're just here to survive and live out the rest of their experience. So in terms of thinking like that, things start to make sense pretty fast, pretty easy. And then you start to see that some of these political arguments and political things that are going on actually don't really mean that much to a human being who is just trying to live and trying to get the best experience out of their life in any way, shape, or form. And that comes from any denomination, and I think anyone that goes to church would agree with me that this is what they're seeking, is what they sought. Maybe some of them have found it. And then that's why they continuously go. As for me, as a medicine man, I deal with this on a daily basis when folks are asking me for prayers or ceremonies, and I constantly talk to them about what kind of peace do you find in your life And where do you find that peace? Where do you go with that? And how do you unload life and whatever's happening to you, whether it's your children being upset with you, or maybe it's your job, your coworkers, etc. Whoever may be creating this situation, maybe it's yourself, maybe you're an addict, maybe you're going through some type of mental health issue, and you have anxiety and things like that. How do you find peace in any of those? In a lot of those issues there, peace seems to be very hard to acquire, and people seek it out in different ways. And at a certain level, a certain point, I realize now that human beings, particularly, they thrive on peace, and they'll do anything to find it, whether it's taking pharmaceutical ingredients into your body, or some type of chemical into your body to achieve that. And this is why we have alcoholics and drug addicts. This is why we might have other folks there that are seeking other means to that. I mean, you can put this on anything, honestly, any denomination, any faith, any religion, in any culture, any color of human being. And that's where I would say you have that issue.
I want to ask both of you this. And when there are situations where it's dire crisis, and I would consider this to be dire for many people, communities come together. You see people actually helping each other, whether it's out there, food banks, whatever it may be. What I want to ask you specifically, Art, as a medicine man, when things like this happen, and your role on the reservation, when people come up to you asking for spiritual advice, is that a gauge for you to see exactly where the community stands from a spiritual point of view? It kind of shows you, well, look, when they're in need, they're coming to me for some type of spiritual aid or whatever it is, advice.
Right.
You know what I mean? Does that allow you to get a good gauge of how they're doing with their own identity as far as spirituality?
Yeah, I think that most folks out there, they don't even know their own. They can't even gauge what you're referring to, and they don't know. And so when they come to me, they're looking to me for answers that they don't understand, they don't have. So I kind of have to play a couple roles there, not only as a medicine man, but I also get in there.
Uh-oh. Looks like he may be having an issue. Well, while he's trying to get his back, Michelle, what's your take on that?
Well, I think what's lacking today is we're lacking tranquility. I think we're lacking balance in our lives. So I think Art is trying to balance the community. When we can do that work within the oneself, the mind, body, and spirit of oneself, meaning me, you add to the community, you don't go against it. And when you find tranquility within your own self and the peace, and you are asking a medicine man that people seek for meaning and understanding, and he gets to communicate to the community of what is best practices, and he's trained, and in that spiritual art he does. I can't say I'm a medicine woman because I've not been trained, and it takes years to have that kind of training. So Art, go ahead and continue on what you were saying.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the internet's kind of shaky out here in this area. We just had a rainstorm. Unfortunately, we're on Navajo Nation, and we still use microwave technology. If you can believe that.
Yeah, I can believe it. Yeah. Oh, there we go again.
There it is. There's that technology.
Yeah, I love technology. It's a blessing. It can also be a curse.
I got it.
Okay, you got that? Okay. Yep.
I'm back.
So, go ahead, Art.
Well, anyway, I don't think the internet liked what I had to say. Kicked me off again. But anyway, yes. So a lot of folks don't even know. They can't even gauge their type of issue, whatever that may be, mentally, physically, spiritually. A lot of folks don't even know that they have a problem until things really get out of control. That's when they show up at my door. And then here I am trying to sort out what's going on with them mentally, physically, spiritually. And it takes about 4 to 6 hours for me to go from the start to the finish, and trying to help these individuals, patients, as I call them, try to get to a better state of mind, better state of physical life and things like that. So, and sometimes it doesn't take one time. We have to go into multiple sessions. So it's really interesting to me that when all else fails, within modern technology or even Western medicine, they look for me, who has a spiritual connection of some kind. And then a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't believe in paranormal or anything, but can you help me?" And in that sense, I always tell them it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It believes in you. And that's the thing that creates a connection with all human beings. You have telepathic power, you have spiritual power, you have an energy about you, you have a Taurus, everyone has this, but no one really taps into it. And so when there's an issue with any one of those areas of a human body, whether it's the energy state, whether it's the physical state, whether it's this physical realm that we live in or exist in, or whether it's something that's beyond that's affecting us, then we have to really, I do my assessment, and I do very thorough assessments on individuals, and I request of them a lot of information that is private. And I need to know whether or not they've been to certain places, sat in certain types of ceremonies, or have done certain things that have corrupted their system. Like, if you want to think in terms of computers, if a human has a virus of some kind, then obviously you're going to need something to clean out that virus, an antivirus of some kind. So one is to get them to understand that they may have done something to create this issue for themselves. Number two is having them understand that what I'm doing is trying to remove that virus out of them at some degree. So, and that takes hours of probing. And it's not like they give me the answer. A lot of times I find that whatever they tell me is not even the issue. That was never the issue to begin with. It turns out to be something completely different. And so people will really, I've had a lot of interactions where people were just taken back and they didn't know how to react to me as to I'm bringing up stuff that they've never told anyone. And I'll give you a good example is molestation. People who've been molested in their life who've never talked about it, and I figure that out through my ceremony, and I bring it up to them. And some of these things they're not really prepared, that they showed up with a different mindset there, that they had the idea, this is what's wrong with me. So it was kind of like predetermination on their part. On my part, I don't even worry about any of that. I'm here as just how can I fix this person? How can I get them back on their way? How can I get them back to 100%? So getting to that, it takes time. It takes hours upon hours. And I really like the fact that, I get to work with people on that level, because I feel like I'm making a difference. I'm one person at a time, mind you, but I'm making a difference of some kind. And to be like at a national level and to speak to a group of individuals, a gathering of some kind, that's my ultimate goal, is to express that to everyone and to help them understand that their issues in life right now, they're not alone. I don't think we're ever really alone in this world. I'll give you a really good example. When either one of you walk into a room, you feel the energy in that room. You can tell when something's wrong. You can tell when something's
Absolutely.
right. And that right there is evidence of what I'm talking about, that we're never alone. And if you feel that, why didn't you go in there and ask what's wrong, or try to determine what individual is having an issue? We don't do that because it's socially unacceptable today. But imagine if our society was to go into a room, feel this uneasiness, and start asking questions amongst each other, and create this humankind relationship that we're there to support one another and to heal one another and change that energy within that room. And we help these people this way. So if you think of it like that, then I'm on that path. That's where I'm headed in my destiny. And I just hope that a lot of people out there listening to this live stream would understand that this is what spirituality is about. It was never about an individual journey. This is about a group journey, a human journey, a global journey as we travel through this vast space that's out there, the unknown. I mean, we're still learning.
It is I'm going to tell you, just getting to know you over the last few months, it is an honor to know you, because what you do is so honorable. And I just, touching on what you just said, like, spirituality can have multiple layers as well. I mean, one thing when I'm outside, and I've said this before with Michelle and the guys, to go bike riding and be in peace with my surroundings and that connection, that is a form of spirituality.
Yeah.
But then there's also, if you have, you're a person of faith, of whatever it is, that's another form. But since there's so much negative energy and distraction, and people are under stress, it's so difficult to get back to that rooted spirituality, because everybody's just, it's all over the place, to both of you. It's so hard. But I think now people are turning to spirituality because of everything that's going on around them. But Art, what you just said is spot on. It'd be great if people communicated and went to somebody, said, are you okay? Just to have a conversation, care about others. Despite if we have differences, show that compassion, show that you care. I think that goes along with what you just said.
Bill, I agree with you. There's a polarization that's going on in our world today, and there's an unbalanced, and this is why we're having the problems with our nation, the killings, I could go on and on and on. And we are in some retrospect seeing the media trying to do peace agreements and everything, but this killing's still going on. And, like you said, you get on the bike, you go and release whatever energies that you want to get back to nature. I do the same thing this week. And this is interesting because we're coming up on Halloween. And I could have turned this into a Halloween story, but as I was thinking of what Art was saying, I had a morning where I woke up around 6 o'clock, and me and my friend, she was, gotten up at the same time, and we had other friends coming up. And there was this cloud mass, which I thought was fog, and then it danced, and it became like taffy looking, and it started to manipulate, and it had a great energy to it. And my friend says, there are spirits inside that cloud mass. Because you know how fog works. It kind of goes low to the ground, but not this. It contorted.
No wind. There's no like wind that could swirl it around or anything like that.
No. And it was a phenomena of sorts, but it was a paranormal phenomena. And what I gleaned from that energy was positive, and I thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen. And so I thought, something's trying to come and cleanse the way in nature. Mm-hmm. And that was a really cool experience. And I felt great. Sometimes people can take that as a negative if that's what they choose and what they're thinking in their lives. It's just we can change. Yeah. It's a mind-body experience that I was having. My friend may not have had the same thing, and it may have put a little bit of fear in her. I thought it was the most wonderful thing. And it was wonderful to know how that nature sometimes can talk back to us. And so that's where we get balance. And you do it through bike riding. Art does it through practicing with participants that come to him, and he assesses, and he gets to do the ceremonies. Both benefit from that,
Right.
I can't speak for Art, but that's what I'm seeing as my perception.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot to be said about this, and I'm sure that in the time as people watch this stream, the views will come in, and for me, I've been having this conversation recently for the past few weeks about peace. and spirituality and trying to figure out. I had a conversation with this gentleman who's in his 60s, and he's an aspiring medicine man. He's learning the ways, and he's trying to figure it out. And he came to me and he asked me, I'm much younger than he is, but he still had questions for me. He says, how do I get there? What do I do? And what do I say? And he goes, I feel like I don't know enough, and etc. And I told him, I said, you've lived over 60 years. You know something, that's number one. Number two is, as a human being, I felt the compassion off of him. And I said, you have compassion. And that's how it begins. It starts with that. For a human being that doesn't.
Oh, there we go again with technology.
I'm ready to get him back on when he's back, but you see, he's feeling the same vibe as I'm feeling, and you are as well, with the compassion, all those positive attributes. Let me get him back.
Okay.
I'm on.
Okay,
cool.
You got to like Navajo technology.
No. I was just staring at you. No. Yeah, but what I was trying to say was that as you said, attributes, that's a good word to use, because you have to have certain qualities about you to become a medicine man. And certain people will recognize that. And when they do recognize it, they want to elevate that and bring you to the next level of understanding. So what the questions were to me, I basically told them, I said, what you're seeking may not be the medicine man life. What you're actually seeking is peace for yourself. Wow. You've had this question all your life as to why life is the way it is, why you end up in the situations you do, where you ended up in your life, what was your destiny, and a lot of people question that as they get older. And one of the things that does that is society. It throws it back at you saying you have to be educated, you have to have a degree, you got to have this, you got to have that. These credentials will make you a quality human being, et cetera, et cetera. But you take in terms that you erase all the education, erase all of that. I mean, it's fine to have that. But what I'm saying is that when you're talking about spirituality, it's a whole different school. It doesn't require a high profile education. It requires life and experience and the ability to nurture from those experiences only on your behalf. So this is what I was trying to tell him was maybe your body.
Oh, there we go again.
We'll wait for him. While he's getting back, I'm really curious what his take is as a medicine man, and it's on the reservation. He's coming back now, so I'll just wait till he finishes his thought. Hopefully, he's coming back. I'm going to see what happens. Come on. But
this generally happens when the Rangers are on the show, as you know.
I'm going to wait because I really want him to answer this question because I'm really curious.
Okay.
I'm out of touch with this, but he's not. My question is, with the youth of today, what is their spirituality? How do they identify with spirituality? And are they coming to him, the younger generation, in that spiritual sense? Or does it seem like this younger generation is losing that part, do you know what I mean? That dynamic of spirituality.
I think it's like become very personable to a person. And what I've seen from the news, when they talked about what was happening with the lefties, and it was a lot of the kids. I don't even have an identity. I'm transgender. I'm this and that, and people are even losing their identity. And I don't mean to get on the community. It just seems like we have no identity in our world today. People don't know if they believe in spirituality or they're just kind of in this void.
Yeah. Right. What's your take on the younger generation? Are they out of touch with spirituality? Are you optimistic about them being spiritual in any sense? Are they coming to you? What's going on with that?
Well, I can speak on my kids that they're very spiritual. My children are anyway, and I think it's based upon what the parents teach them, their environment. And when you're told that you can do anything without consequence, what kind of society are you creating with the human beings you created? Because you're talking more of a broader sense would be talk about morals. Do we lack?
It's that storm.
it's the gods, the weather gods.
And that microwave internet.
I know what microwave internet. Yeah, we're talking about 1950 stuff.
And of course, this is part of it, but he's a guest that comes on often. So with such wisdom, and I'm sure, we'll be definitely discussing this more with him in the future. But you were speaking, he was speaking about his children. His children are very spiritual. And I believe that, he was going to talk about in general, and you definitely hit on something. A lot of them are still trying to find their way, and the youth of today and self-identity and all these multiple identities. It's like, it's difficult for one to find an identity, period, let alone. And another thing, too, is dealing with your peers, because that has a lot to do with it, too.
It does. And influence of society can also change the way behavior is with children, with spirituality. And I think when we were talking about the title, Spiritually in the Mainstream, there was a time, do you remember a time that everybody got into the meditation? They got into getting closer to Mother Gaia. Gaia was a really huge movement in itself. And now today we've swung the pendulum the other way. So there's a lot of violence and hatred and prejudice.
Energy, lots of negative energy.
And lots of negative energy. Go ahead, Art. Are you on?
Yeah, I'm on. It's just annoying that we have to go through this.
It's okay. We're used to it.
But, yeah, I was on a roll there. But anyway, so this medicine man that I was talking with, my point was peace. That what his soul is searching for is peace. And I asked him, I said, do you think about death a lot? Are you constantly wondering what that's like and what's going to happen? Are you worried in the sense of where your body wants to live on forever, or your mind wants to live on forever, your consciousness, but your physical state is deteriorating, and we had this conversation for about a good 20, 30 minutes. And at one point, he just said, I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes I don't understand myself. And I said, that's typical. You go through a crisis in your life where you have to accept certain things. And I think that step happens with all of us. When you're young, you don't have that issue because your ego is so big. And you're constantly looking for authentication, or you're doing other things out there that are feeding your ego, and you're acting out in that sense. But as you get older, you lose that. And you really start to contemplate life and death, and you contemplate your own existence and what is this all about, and other things like that. And having that ability to talk to people on that level, and just tell them that peace is what you're seeking and spirituality is what you need. You need to calm down your soul. You need to understand that your mind sometimes works against you. But you also need to understand that some of us have traveled to the other side and have come back. As I've told you guys a story about that purple world I experienced, and realizing that this place that's here now is more about experience than it is about what you acquire. As many people have stated through the years, that you're not going to be able to take anything with you except what's in here, your knowledge and what you feel in your heart, the love. And so I just understand that some of these kids now, they don't have that moral teaching. There's no one there, teaching them these things. And I mean discipline. And so how are they supposed to know what's right or wrong? How are they supposed to know what's actually going to be affecting them physically until it's too late? They learn these lessons. And they're sitting in prison for a lifetime, unfortunately, or they're out there thinking they're bulletproof, and that's starting to happen a lot. People are just wanting out of this world. So in my experience now, I'm starting to realize that spirituality is it's a necessary tool, necessary thing for the human mind and body to really to be okay with itself. And if you don't have that, and I'm just saying, this is my personal opinion, is if you don't have that spirituality somehow, some way in your life, whether it's through Jesus Christ, whether it's through traditionalism, whether it's through maybe some other type of denomination that's out there, some other belief, even just a small piece of that will bring you some type of peace, a small understanding, some reassurance that this life is not the end, that you will have another life after this. And so we're talking about fourth dimension. As I mentioned before, this is, we got three-dimensional things that are happening here, but once you leave this three dimension, you basically become a fourth dimensional being, a spiritualized being that has the ability to travel. I mean, we see evidence of this when they talk about the molecules, where they can interact with each other across the universe in real time, like, just so instantaneously. And so if that's the case, then we're preparing ourselves here for that next world. And we're seeing, I think what's happening here is some of these scientists are on the verge, and they have this evidence and they're presenting it. A lot of people will call this, oh, that's just theory, that's this, that's that. But let's really think about that, and let's really understand that you as a human being, we don't even have the capability to touch anything, because there's energy between our fingertips, right? And it may feel like you're touching something, but you're actually not touching anything. It's the energy. There's this little tiny film here that doesn't allow us to really touch anything. And that's really, that blew my mind when I started to understand what it means to be human, and what it means to be in existence in this creation right now. In this world that we live in. And our Navajo stories have kind of conjured from that same understanding that somewhere down the road, we as physical human beings, we know we're made up of water, and we knew this long before science came along, Western medicine, Western technology, school, and all. Before all that came along, we had this understanding. So we have ceremonies that we do that were long in existence before the first white man came over here onto our land, our property, in our area. We already were practicing that. So when you talk about spirituality, I'm not just talking from my mouth. I'm talking from hundreds of thousands of people behind me, and that bloodline that exists with knowledge that has been passed down to me, on a molecular level. You're making, because I did some research too on indigenous culture. Right. And there have been historically chiefs that you could not break their spirit. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what you said earlier about it's, I would say, inner peace. Now, if you have that peace within yourself, it also helps with your self-esteem, your self-confidence, positive aura, like all the great things. And you don't allow those negative energies to affect you at all, because you have that inner peace. Right. Right.
Well, let's also talk about the body, though. This week I know of somebody who was committed to a psychiatric ward. Unfortunately, they felt like their health and their body were falling apart and couldn't cope.
Wow.
So how do we tell the community and the audience there are procedures or anything that they could do to cope with their health? Because we could all lose it. Now, we only get one body.
Right. Yeah. And I think I can answer that. Obviously, I don't think Skywatcher can answer that. No.
All yours.
What I would say to that is that as a mother, right, you have a frequency that has been established within your vocal cord, specifically yours, for your children. And so that the child that you may bear understands that frequency on a very nourishing level, from the time of incubation to the time that they're developed and they become, part of this world. And I say that because, I don't know if your mothers have ever sang to either one of you, or a parent has done that to you, and how much that changes the state of mind that you're in almost instantly to where you can fall asleep. Once you hear mom's voice in a certain type of frequency, you melt. You're there. You find peace. You find that tranquil moment. And so when you talk about physical state, imagine that you have that power already to begin with, that it's part of it's the grand design that's been done for all of us, but we don't utilize it. Instead, we turn harsh and we get mad and we yell and we stress our children out. We stress our people out, our wives, our husbands, whoever. But there's going to be moments when your soul intertwines with someone, and let's say you found true love, and you have somebody, your significant other, you as human beings can create this connection, right? A soulful connection of communication that is based upon a vocal cord, to where you guys know what you're talking about without really having to say too much. It automatically comes out of you. And you don't have to superly or super express how much you love somebody. Sometimes it's just the fact that you say, I love you. And that's all it takes, because they know the whole entire weight behind just those two words coming from you to them is very personal. And so as parents, we have that type of ability. We have that power. We don't tap into it. We don't use it the way that we've been designed to use it. And I bring this up because when I do ceremonies, I use certain items that have a certain frequency that can break curses on people. Now imagine that. Now people will say, "Oh, you're crazy. That doesn't work." And that's not. But I'm telling you that I've seen it with my own eyes. I've experienced this, and how you make this and where we came up with these different devices and tools has been with us for hundreds of years. Who out there came up with this? What medicine man, what person came up with this? I constantly question that as to how they figured this out long before anyone was able to get a sound frequency to have salts or grain of sand dance upon a table, as they changed the frequency tone. Before that even was acquired or even showed existence on YouTube, we were already doing that to begin with, but we were doing it on a very molecular level, spiritual level, to fix human beings, to bring them back into 100%. So if you're talking about a physical state, you start with your voice here. This is where it all begins. And that's the number one communication that we teach here in the Native American community, is that God, right, rests right here at your lips, that you have the power to talk to yourself and you have the power to hear yourself, and you can change your own molecular status. But the number one thing that follows that is faith. If you do not have the faith, it will not work. You have to have faith in order for you to have that ability. And that's what it really comes down to, is, do you have faith in yourself to heal yourself? Because if you don't, unfortunately, all the prayers in the world probably won't save you, because you don't have that. You're lacking. So I have to tell people, believe in what you say, believe in what you do, watch what you do, watch what you say. If you're talking about yourself in a negative way, you're going to have a negative effect. If you talk about yourself in a positive way, most likely there's going to be some kind of change to you. And I can feel the energy changing between both of you right now as I'm saying this. Also see it very physically on both of you. That what I'm saying is blowing your mind here. And I see that, and I recognize a lot of that when I talk, when I have this interaction with certain people. And so that's my evidence to both of you as to what I'm talking about.
Mind over body is also important. Self-healing, because that's actually something that a lot of people practice.
Right.
That is something. And like you said, and Michelle, John, Stan, like I said, I put a lot of power in this. It's the power you give it. Do you know what I mean? That's what's important. And what you're saying resonates with me, because you made me get the chills when you were saying that, because it's so true.
Quartz crystals have that effect on the human body, because they vibrate at a level that is consistent. That's why they use quartz crystals in watches to keep the best time, because they don't deviate. They rarely do. They stay at the same operation and frequency, and it just stays. It's so consistent. So if you took a crystal and held it up to your body, like what Michelle's holding, those quartz crystals, you hold that up to your body, it's going to help slow down your vibrational frequency,
Mhm.
and it helps solidify your body just a little bit better, where everything is moving. All matter is moving throughout the universe. Everything, anything living is going to be moving at some rate of speed.
I don't mean
Now,
to. So if is you think it's good to have these crystals like in the house to absorb that energy?
right, not too many of them, but I would say that a few would help you. If you're going to sit there and meditate for a while, definitely have some of these crystals, because it's going to solidify you just all that more to help you understand. You may all of a sudden feel, I have a pain in my back. And that's because you solidified, and now you're identifying that area of your body where your torus may be affected, and you didn't know that. So now you have the ability and the means to understand how to fix yourself right then and there.
Wow, I learned something tonight.
Art, you really come in with a way to communicate your medicine to the masses. And I was thinking, as you were talking about the voice and having familiarity to talking with a child and calming them down, like we can even tell a child, calm down. And then they're like, okay. And, one of the coolest things that happened over the weekend, I had a special weekend. I got out in the nature with a couple of friends, and one of them sang a Native American song of protection.
Wow.
And that was so special. Not that anything was going to occur, but they sung in Ute a song of protection for us, because they couldn't stick around.
Yeah.
And so even music has a way of calming down the soul and, adding an extra energy to your ears, to your body. And you just kind of calm down from fears that may,
Right.
unknown situations you might find yourself in. So, frequency is very special, to your point that you said earlier.
I mean, look at the Buddhists, right? They have bowls they use. They have monks out there that use this. And how did they understand to use that technology? And where did that come from? Tibet and all those folks out that way, they figured this out, that these are some of the secrets that hold the key to your mortality,
Right.
and to your immortality, to your soul's immortality. So why are we not utilizing that on a daily thing? We don't utilize that. We don't schedule self-healing anywhere in your daily life. I mean, I ask you, Skywatcher, when's the last time you focused on healing yourself? Other than doing something, like you said, you ride your bike and do all of that, but that's not necessarily what I'm referring to. When is the last time you actually sat there and thought about what I'm talking about? Really sat there and contemplated your life? I mean, for older gentlemen, I would probably say you probably do it quite often, but you don't get that deep with it. I'm pretty sure it's scary. Scary.
I did when I had a life-threatening moment.
Yeah.
That's when it happened. And that's unfortunate that it took that to take that. But, you made another great point, both of you, with the music. Maybe we need to emphasize more music, because it is a frequency. It is a resonance, vibration. Maybe we should be focusing more on creating that type of music, because it's universal. Language is not the issue here. Do you know what I mean? It's a universal language. And maybe that's where we need to focus more on putting that type of music out that resonates with people and brings them back to their spirituality. You know what I mean?
Right. But here, let me blow your mind a little more here. This language that we use called English is not the best language for this body or mind. It is not. And when we talk about frequency, there are other ways of means of communication that this body can create. It's not only the words. It's not only using the structure that's necessary for English. And I say that because humming has that effect. And I'm saying that because you have an ability within your vocal range to convey messages on a level that you would understand regardless. You would know whether it's intentional, whether it's something that you might be mad or not, or you might be trying to calm somebody down, bringing somebody back from some bad situation, etc. But you have that power as a human being. You have the capability, but we don't talk about those things, and we don't go that route with it, because some people just believe that that is nonsense. You know, that the only way that you can actually fix somebody is by giving them a drug, a pill, or by having them communicate what's wrong with them. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, most people don't even know what's wrong with them. That's why they're there with you. That's why they're asking you what's wrong. You know, and some of these doctors that are out there, I'm not saying nothing bad about all the doctors. They've had years and years of education, but it's not the education, it's the experience. That's where you get the most development out of it. And that's what I've been doing for a lot of years already. And so I may not be a doctor, so to speak, with an actual degree, but my experience with the human body itself, the human spirit itself, has taught me so much, has helped me understand that there's more to what we need to dive deeper into those situations, those conversations, and have that exposed, so that humanity can take its bite out of that information and heal itself. That's where I'm headed with that.
Always from you, we only got a few minutes left, words of wisdom. And I think it's so important to have shows like this with Michelle and the guys and you to get the message out to the public. So I want to thank you for being here tonight. Always an honor to be in your presence. And, you know, hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Absolutely. And, you know, Bill, it is needed right now in our communities and our world and our, you know, United States where we live, because there's so much going on, whether it's in the government, in our homes, even our individual lives. And so when I had the opportunity to go out into the wilderness and commune with Mother Nature and Mother Spirit, it really balances the mind, the body, spirit. But then it was really interesting to come out of that, and the cycle started again of this mad world, you know, phone calls. I got to do this. I got to schedule that. I got to be there. I got to be there, here and there. And it that's what we're lacking. And then we're lacking the drum. You know, the drum is the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
The heartbeat. And that's where the healing takes place, is within our own heart. And, you know, Art, I appreciate your words of wisdom. That's why we have you on the show so often, because you're out there practicing what you say.
Yes, I am.
Absolutely. And Bill, thank you for being our show today. And the Rangers are out there doing what they need to do, and they're touching hearts and people's minds and teaching them how not to cultural appropriation.
I do want to mention something, though, to everyone that's watching. On Halloween, there will be the Paranormal Rangers Halloween Stories. And it's going to air at 12 noon, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and again at 11 p.m. Eastern. So make sure to check that out on Halloween day. And Michelle, what do we got coming up next week with the Paranormal Rangers?
Well, we have Andrew Bartz coming to be on our show next Wednesday, and he's the Galactian.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure and an honor to have you wise words of wisdom on here. And I'm sure it's resonating and helping people out there. And we, like Michelle needs, now is a time really that we all need that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Art. And sorry about your technology. Now it's working.
Yeah. Now it's working fine.
All right, Michelle, if you want to wrap it up.
Okay.
So we're out of here, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and the Rangers will see you next week.